Let me give you the third one, and then we're going to make a point, because we're talking about being blessed and what that means. But thirdly, God blesses what he makes. We read that all this morning. He blessed it. Not only is God the sole sovereign and an intentional creator, but he is also the God who loves and blesses what he creates. See, this is different from other ancient accounts of the beginning of the world. From the beginning, the God who creates also blesses what he has made. And why wouldn't he? Stop and think about that. Why wouldn't he bless it? After all, he meant to make it. And he called it what? He called it good. See, the word good has many meanings, but in some usage, it has the resonances with what we might call beautiful. And in a very real way, all that is good and beautiful in the world is the result of God's blessing on it. Imagine the people of God living in exile in Babylon, not feeling very blessed. They strain their eyes to see something of God's hand. They train their ears to hear something of God's voice. When all of a sudden they remember. What do they remember? I don't know if you remember this story, but they remember that the world was made by God. This tree, this stream, this flower, this fruit, everything that flourishes around them flourishes because God has blessed it. See, the blessing of God on the material world would have been a source of consolation and a spark of worship in an otherwise difficult land of exile. Let me ask you something. Good and beautiful. Is that how you see yourself in your life? Let me ask you again. Good and beautiful. I wrote down this. Is that how you see yourself or your life? And then here, are you ready? This is what I wrote. I said, maybe on a good day. Right? But we and let's be honest with ourselves. We often struggle to see ourselves as good or beautiful, let alone both. I put here. I asked myself, why, John? Why? Why is it that some days you, and all I could say was that we're too aware of our shortcomings or what we would call our plainness, right? I'm not really good. I'm a bit of a mess, actually. And beautiful? Well, I wouldn't say that. Maybe just ordinary. See, the Genesis story grounds us in God, folks. God himself made us on purpose, for a purpose, and blessed us by calling us good and beautiful. That is your origin story. That's how you were created. Blessed or being blessed it's not a state. It's not about what you have or where you're at or all that kind. It's a story. It's an origin story. It's the story of how you began and why. It's the story of God, the Creator, calling you into being on purpose and for a purpose. It's the story of God taking delight in you and naming you as good and beautiful. It's the story of God, the Redeemer, pursuing you, calling you, and returning you to who he made you to be. The God who called light out of darkness calls you out of darkness and into light. And in doing so, he brings you back to the beginning, to your beginning. This is where it starts. This is where you are blessed.